The Metaverse is emerging as the next big technology platform and promises to be the next frontier for human experiences on the internet. Into the Metaverse covers companies, technologies, and trends that are bringing these promises to life. Join creator and host Jonathan Ross-Friedman, founder and CEO of Supersocial, as he interviews the brilliant minds that are building, shaping, and investing in the Metaverse.
Welcome to Into the Metaverse. I'm Yon, and joining me today is Dan Sturman, Chief Technology Officer at Roblox, where he heads an engineering team of over 1,400 people. Prior to joining Roblox, Dan served as Vice President of Engineering and Support at Cloudera, where he led a team of 600 plus engineers and oversaw all software development and customer support, and previously served as a VP of Engineering at Google, where he led the development of cloud products, including Google Compute Engine and Google App Engine, as well as the internal cluster management systems that manages Google's fleet of servers. Dan, so happy to welcome you on the show. We're going to have a great conversation.
Really excited to be here, Jan. Thank you.
As always, everything we're talking today is going to be purely for information and education and not a financial advice. So, Dan, jumping right into my favorite question that I ask all of our guests, and really the goal is to gradually reach some form of a consensus, which probably going to be impossible, but we're going to try anyway over the coming years. And this is based on, really, I want to hear your perspective, not only on the work you're doing with Roblox, but really your entire journey as a technologist over the last 15, 20 years. But for you, what is the metaverse and why does it matter that it's happening?
You start right with the easy questions, right? So, I think that's a good question. And I think it's a complicated one because, first of all, I don't think metaverse is, tightly defined. So what I'll say is, at least at Roblox, we have this vision of reimagining the way people come together in these 3D immersive environments that are social and allow all sorts of, different interactions in a way that just wasn't really possible with, existing kind of interaction technology. But there's a few other things also that we're very focused on that kind of go beyond that. So it's 3D, it's social, but also we're a firm believer, as you know, in that it's all creator driven. Like, we're not centrally authoring anything here. And I think, even if you go back to Neil Stephenson, there's kind of this view of a centrally authored metaverse concept in some places. And so when we've seen that the power of creators, it's really what makes this metaphor extremely powerful. Also, that communication is important. It's not just about 3D or game playing. That communication between individuals is so central to all of this. At Roblox, we see our users come to enjoy the platform together, or to interact together, or to share an experience together. And that's absolutely essential to what we're doing. So if that's metaverse, then I think that's my definition of it, right? But I think, different folks can put different spins on this, and no one will necessarily be wrong, because I'm not sure there's one thing at this point. But it's what's working for Roblox, and we're seeing how that's compelling. Your team's been involved in this too, so you might have something you want to add on that. But that's what's working for us, and we think is kind of where we're taking the next wave of this technology.
Yeah, and I think definitely putting metaverse as a term, right? Yes or no? And I think you kind of said it correctly. Sure, if what is happening is the beginning of a metaverse, that's great. But I think what's pretty much clear is that there is kind of a next iteration of what the internet looks like, which I think the bigger question is, and I think for a lot of people, the metaverse feels like a gigantic game. And to an extent, right? Maybe it's true at the moment. It just feels like one giant game environment. But really, I think what we're talking about is something that is going to impact the way the internet is, and a 3D internet. And what does that mean for other forms of interaction, entertainment, consumption, and so on and so forth. And I know we're going to dig in on a lot of that, especially after the truly phenomenal RDC last weekend, where I've also participated, and you guys have done a really remarkable job outlining a lot of the innovations that are coming down the pipeline, which we'll talk about. But before we dig on all of that, Dan, because you had such an interesting journey as a technology and engineering executive, I want to understand just a bit more on kind of the journey that you've been through that led you here to this particular role as a CTO for, obviously one of the most important companies at the moment on the internet, definitely for, hundreds of millions of people under age 25 around the world. And so, you went from all the way from IBM to Cloudera to Roblox, which you've joined nearly 4 years ago. And so I'd love to hear kind of what does being in this role today mean for your own journey, and what really gets you excited about doing this role as CTO at Roblox today?
When I joined Roblox, I was really looking for something that more than anything else was going to excite me, and excite me in a way where I thought there would be boundless challenges in what we did. And I'm the CTO, so in particular, boundless technical challenges, because I wanted to find a place where being CTO would be super exciting and super challenging and super difficult, right? I think we found that at Roblox. One of the things I love about Roblox, and because of its platform nature, we can't just push the envelope on one portion of the technology we ship. So as you know, our engine looks very different from, let's say, other game engines out there because it has to run on any device without the creator being involved, right? Like a big part of our value proposition at Roblox is you can run any experience on any device anywhere in the world. And that has to just happen. That should not come through sweat and toil of our creators. That should just be what the system does. And that's why we put so much effort into how the physics engine works, how performance works on different devices. Everything at Roblox, for example, gets tested on mid-range, mobile devices, not high-end gaming PCs, right? And so you have that aspect, but then we have a trusted safety element because we have this shared community, and that has to work really well, and it can't be after the fact, catching issues. It's got to be proactive. It's got to keep the society civil online, because that's what makes so many of these experiences so enjoyable. And then you can think about, we're basically a cloud provider. I mean, we don't advertise ourselves as a cloud provider, but we provide all the scale up and all the data infrastructure and all the networking and a global footprint for all our experiences. And again, our experiences don't have to know they're doing that. They have no idea they're doing that. They're coding their Lua code and building their 3D worlds, and then it kind of magically goes to 2 million concurrent users or something like that, right? So and I could go on and on. We have an economy here. We have teams that figure out what's the right experience for you out of millions. There's just so much going on here. The reason I came to Roblox, what I'm so excited about doing here and why it felt like such the right move, it's kind of touching all of computer science.
And I want to give a shout out to your colleague Tammy Baumick, who leads all the civility efforts, and she was on the podcast actually earlier this year, yeah. And we talked a lot about why creating an environment that is safe and meaningful for people is so important. And I think there is a lot of work that I believe is going to be important in that space, because I think we're talking about almost a new modality of interaction. It's one thing when you have a bunch of video games on the internet that are 3D worlds. It's a different thing where 3D worlds become large-scale, billion-user type of social spaces, which hasn't really been done until today. And so I think that scale of how do you scale civility and safety, that's going to be a really interesting challenge as a 3D environment. And the other thing that I think is really important, and it's actually funny that you're saying it because it's true, I've never heard anyone define Roblox as a cloud services provider, but I remember one of the first slides that I had in our own investor deck when we started Super Social in 2020, I kind of had the slide and I showed, this is Roblox, and it's a game engine, it's a social network, it's a virtual economy, and it's a cloud services provider. Because it simplifies all of the things that you need to do as a developer. And that creates also, I'm curious about your point of view and how you guys are thinking about it, because one of the things that we get asked a lot by folks, especially with investors, venture investors, is the economy doesn't make sense, or the rev share, and Roblox takes this massive, gigantic cut, and then we explain all of the things that Roblox provides for that revenue share. But also, what I tell people is we need to compare apple to apple, right? Sure, if I build on Unity and Unreal, I may have a bigger piece of the revenue, but I also invest way much money in building and commercializing and marketing the game, while on Roblox, it's a plug and play, and I can really focus on the user interface and the creative side of building a game. And I'm curious, how do you think about, at a long term, about how Roblox can continue and differentiate itself as a turnkey platform versus other environments that have those more disparate components that are not tightly integrated as an end-to-end environment?
Right. So I think what has worked well for us is being the turnkey environment. I expect that's going to continue to be that way. And in fact, we're continuing to push in that direction of how do we just bring richer and richer automatic services and experience. So, for example, now that we have voice on the platform, how does that work when you have people from different backgrounds talking to each other? Is it possible someday to do like, kind of Star Trek style automatic real-time translation between languages, spoken language, right? Like, and that's something, if we do it, it should not be up to each creator to go figure out how to do it, just be part of the platform. So as a platform, we're thinking about how do we make this richer? And then conversely, how do we not stick our nose into places that are absolutely domain of our creators? So with Roblox Connect, which we'll probably talk about in a bit, which is our new way of kind of doing avatar calls and examples there, because we were building kind of new content, we've open sourced it all with the intent that our creators are going to take the concept car we put out there, so to speak, and then do even more crazy and interesting and deep things with it than we ever would have imagined, right? So we kind of have a pretty almost like separation of church and state. As a platform, we must excel, and we must watch where our creators are going and give them everything they need to work incredibly well, and so they can focus on, in a sense, that is the genius they bring to the platform, which is the idea they have on what should be happening and how can people interact, and then we should leave to them all the work of coming up with the great ideas of what's on the platform, what sort of experiences are there. We may be doing games today, music tomorrow. Maybe you'll do your taxes through Roblox at some point, but that's where our creator community comes in. And we expect the millions of them there are, because we have a million strong creator community. They will drive all the innovation in that direction.
Yeah. And I think what's really important about that is there is a lot of, let's call it, somewhat antagonism against platforms, right? Maybe less now, but over the last 2 years, with everyone thinking blockchain is going to essentially eliminate all of the Web 2 or existing web and the existing internet, which is the maximalist view. And there are people who, there's nothing wrong with the internet at the moment. And I think what's really important, and sure, Roblox is a platform, and as a company, you kind of hermetically controlling the platform for all intent and purposes. But I do think it's noted, and I think it should be called out more and more, that really Roblox as a technology company is about focusing on empowering creators to build that content and monetize. And we will talk a bit more about the business side of things and how do you really enable creation of businesses. And, Dave Baszucki mentioned in his keynote in one of the predictions that actually it was the first one he called at the end, which is in the next 5 years, there should be $1 billion enterprise built on top of Roblox, aside from Roblox. And I think that's a great ambition for the platform, which would mean that if there is a $1 billion enterprise, there's probably dozens or maybe even hundreds of smaller companies that are valued at, millions of dollars, which would be fascinating for, the ecosystem. I want to switch gears and talk about Roblox sitting in the intersection of multiple human endeavors and behaviors. And I want to double click on a few of them and see how not only how Roblox enables them, but also what are some of the new things that have been announced at RDC that I think support that. So the first one in my mind is really creation, right? And Roblox is likely the largest community of 3D experiences developers in the world. And that being said, out of the nearly 66 million daily active users, I don't know the number, but I suspect it's 1 or less than 1% of the developers, of the users, actually write code in Lua and build experiences in 3D. And I'm sure there is more who create experiences in terms of content and UGC items. And so how is your most recent vision of creation everywhere by anyone strategy is going to evolve the platform, you believe? And as a follow-up, how do you see Roblox enabling creators to build ever more expansive businesses on the platform in a way that not only provide a livelihood for one individual, which I think to some extent happens a lot already, but really allows developers and studios like Super Social and others to build thriving businesses for the long term?
Yeah, so there's two interesting questions in there. First is, what does creation everywhere look like? And this is something we are very, very excited about. But I was talking before about unique technical challenges. This is not easy. There's a whole lot of things going on there. Everything from what is the user experience so that someone who maybe has put less time into their technical training can actually be a creator, to how do you make it perform? Because now things that were kind of static objects are all turning dynamic and changing and morphing to how do we do trust and safety on these sorts of things, right? And ensure that everything stays totally civil and within guidelines on the platform. When you're going to add multiple orders of magnitude of numbers to the creation, right? There's also scale issues. Like, probably not surprisingly, when we think about creation at Roblox, we kind of had a certain scale in mind based on, some extrapolation of the growth of our users on Studio. If we rapidly grow that by 1,000x, guess what? There's some systems that are probably not going to just stay up when you do that. We have to get ahead of that, right? So it's a really, really interesting technical challenge. But the general idea is we're moving towards the idea of more and more creation capabilities will be in experience. Some of those will be presented directly by Roblox. Like one thing we're working on, and we announced at RDC that we're working on, is photo to avatar. So anyone can take a photo and a text prompt and build, a really cool avatar that expresses who they want to be in that moment on the platform. But then a lot of other capabilities we're building is with the vision of creators building creation experiences, whether it's how you create an avatar, dress an avatar, or just create an entire experience like the one you guys launched, right? But just enabling that with just richer APIs, because I'm sure you guys had to be pretty clever in how you approach doing that on the platform. We want to make that easier and easier to do with higher fidelity and more control, but kind of going meta here that, you're not just building experiences that can build experiences. And I'm sure at some point it'll be an experience building an experience that can build an experience. Like you're just going to it's going to, just keep turtles all the way down, as they say. So, we're trying to enable all of that because we know how much people engage with the platform, how much more rewarding it is when they create. In a sense, every user is a creator today. What are they creating? They're dressing their avatar. Particularly since we launched layered clothing, the combinations between picking an avatar body and head and then items, it's just fantastic. And we know our users spend more and more time just doing that. So you take that same concept, you bring it in experience, and there's really no limit on what can happen. So I think that answers your first question, right? And then your second question was, what are we doing to enable more complex, more sophisticated teams of creators on the platform? It's kind of the other side of that equation, right? How do we both scale up and down at the same time? And, we're doing a lot of things there. This was talked about RDC, not in the keynote, but we're doing a lot with our open cloud APIs, which allow a much richer set of tools that enable much more control for an individual creator. We announced, for example, file sync to Studio, which is something our more sophisticated creators have been asking for forever, right? So we understand also, while Studio is a great tool and appropriate to a certain user, more sophisticated shops are going to have their own workflows, are going to have their way of doing things, are going to move probably more pro in the sorts of tools they want to bring to the platform, and enable them to do that without them giving anything up. So they can intercept where they want to on how they manage their code or their CI/CD pipeline, but still get all that. We're not worrying about scaling goodness just by default, that the scaling just happens for them, right? And they can control all this the way they want. So it's an interesting challenge, but it's one of the ones I'm really excited about. We want to scale up and down on creators at the same time.
Yeah, and I love these couple of the other items that you guys are working on to release, which you've announced. First and foremost, I think lowering the barrier of creation, both from the tech side, and obviously you're integrating the Roblox Assistant, which I think is phenomenal, conversational AI for development, which will accelerate and make people even more productive. But I think also for the creator side, obviously opening the marketplace, the avatar marketplace for all creators. And then, of course, I think there's a few restrictions around that, like age verified and things like that. But I was actually fascinated, and I'd love to hear your vision of the creator marketplace, because the creator marketplace is really enabling people to sell plugins and tools and 3D assets for other developers. And one of the things that I find fascinating about platforms, if you look at Shopify, if you look at Salesforce, both of which built very sophisticated ecosystems of developers for developers. And now, for me, the creator marketplace and all the incentives you guys are giving to build plugins and tools and assets, I'm curious, what is the long-term vision of where you see the tooling and the assets of what creators can build for other creators? and how big and where do you think that goes over the next several years?
Right. No, this is a really important point. That one of the things we've seen in our communities is how much creators want to help other creators, and then some folks get very much in kind of the position of they're not creating now, except they're creating tools for other creators. Like that's their creation activity. And so with Creator and Marketplace, what we're doing is we're moving to the point where we're going to be giving creators who earn on that marketplace 100% of their proceeds minus taxes and processing fees. So just the things obviously that we have to collect and pay out. But basically it's all captured by one creator helping another creator. And we're doing that because of what you called out there, which is the more we enable this community to support each other and create great tools and customized tools, the more we'll enable distinct workflows, the more we'll get great, amazing innovations on the platform. And that velocity of innovation on the platform, I think, is what we're all about. It's in the same lane, but from a different place. You called out Roblox Assistant. So for folks who don't know what Roblox Assistant is, it's a conversational AI plugging into Studio that really allows you to talk to Studio and have it help you decide how to build out a new structure, new place, new environment, or help you write your code or understand how to do things on Roblox. And it's in the same vein that what we want to do is take out kind of the grunge work as much as possible, enable people to focus on their genius, focus on their unique idea. And AI is great for that. Whether you are an expert and you just need something to help you accelerate the tasks that you absolutely know how to do, but you don't want to spend your time doing it, or whether you're someone new to the platform and you're just getting into creation in Studio and you want something that's going to help you along the way, do the complex task the first time for you can see how it did it and follow along in that way, right? So both of these aspects, enabling the community, having AI on the platform, are all about long-term enabling people to be efficient on the platform, because what's really important is the cool idea they have. And how do we take that cool idea and turn it into a 3D experience as opposed to, oh, I could never do that. That's too complex. I can't even approach it, or it will take me too long to do it, or I need 100 people in my organization to do that versus maybe like 5, right? And it just continues that platform promise that we've done. Like, how do we make it so most of the stuff you're focused on is your great idea?
Let's switch gears and, we talked about creation. Let's talk a bit about another pillar that I think is so important, not only in, I believe, what Roblox is building as a platform, but more broadly, how people are going to engage and interact and socialize in this next generation of the internet. And that is what I think of as connect and communicate. And so most people in the industry look at Roblox as a platform with games for kids. Now, obviously, we already know more than 50% of the Roblox audience today, according to what you guys have announced at RDC, is above more than 50% on the Roblox platform is above age 13, 17 to 24, the fastest growing age category on the Roblox platform. All of that is clear and known. I'd love to hear what is your vision, Roblox's vision, in terms of how do you make sure that, and this is a big question I know you get asked all the time as a company, how do you retain that audience as they mature and the communication tools becoming more competitive with other communication tools out there, anywhere from, Snapchat and TikTok and so on and so forth. And obviously, I'd love to hear more about, in this context, the vision for Roblox Connect, which I'm personally so excited about integrating to experiences. So love to hear how that fits into really enabling new forms of communication and connection for aged-up demographics. And also, how do you see also the announcement you've made with where MetaQuest is on Roblox and also the introduction on PlayStation? So kind of one big item, and I'd love to attack it both from the communication tools that you're building with Roblox Connect and also from the proliferation and availability on multiple devices.
That's great. Yeah. And I think it's helpful to set the table first for folks who are watching this. What is Roblox Connect? Because it's both a big step, but it's really just kind of a pinnacle step in a lot of tech we've been building so far. So Roblox Connect is an immersive 3D kind of avatar calling experience. I think it's best, if you don't mind, I'm just going to illustrate with kind of like a little story, because people don't have a demo in front of them. And I think painting what this is, since it's kind of a new thing, is useful. So here's an example I like to use. Let's say I want to call my aunt, and I want to have an immersive 3D communication experience with her. The way this would go is I pull up Roblox on my phone, I open Roblox Connect, and first I have to pick my avatar. And let's say I have an avatar that I love to use kind of in the more like general setting, which is kind of me in a crisp white suit. It's one of my standard avatars. If you go back to my RDC talk, you'll see it up there on one of my slides. And then I pick up her name from my Roblox address book and I select it. And that launches me into Roblox Connect, and it also rings her phone. Now, when I get launched in Roblox Connect, I'm going to want to pick a location. And I'm going to take a little bit of liberty on the first version of the product, but I'll pick a location any creator could actually build, which is my aunt is a literary buff. So I pick a library set in a country manor in the English countryside, right? So it's like the traditional fireplace crackling away in the corner. And thanks to spatial sound, it's like sounds like it's crackling in the corner. There's books everywhere. We have the overstuffed furniture, leather chairs, etc. I sit down. Meanwhile, my aunt, her phone rings, and it literally will ring, just like you're getting a call. She'll see a notification from Roblox. She'll tap that, and she'll get launched right into the library with me. And so now we're both in the library, and her avatar, let's say, is being the lady of the manor. That's how her avatar is dressed, maybe looking a lot like her, except in that sort of period attire. We sit down in our overstuffed chairs. Like I said, the fire is crackling in the corner, and we could talk to each other. And of course, it's spatial, so all the sound is mixing the way you expect. We could also be on different devices. She could be on MetaQuest. I could be on my laptop, like you and I are talking here. I could be on a mobile device, whatever. It doesn't matter. We're having the same shared experience. And then it's more than just talking, because thanks to avatar animation, we're each picking up each other's facial expressions. Eventually, we'll pick up each other's upper body movements. So, for example, when I tell her about the surfer turned cheesemonger that I met in Santa Cruz last weekend, I don't just hear her chuckle, but I kind of see the smirk on her face at like such an absurd thing, right? And vice versa, when I'm talking to her about something, she asks me a question, she doesn't just get my voice, she gets all my facial expression, all that richness, but in the avatars we want to be, in the place we want to be. So that's kind of what Roblox Connect is. And we're enabling all that. All those APIs are open to creators so they can take that concept and they can just go to town with it and either merge it into existing experiences or come with crazy, new, inventive experiences around how people can connect. But it goes directly to this older audience, right? With things like being able to do voice communication. It's something we know older audiences absolutely want. And we saw them having to go off platform to get that before. We need to bring that in and integrate it with the whole platform. So again, so it's just there.
I mean, and just to clarify, again, because as you rightfully said, and folks who are watching this and listening to this are going to have on also like a bunch of images that we'll share in videos of the demo, but we're talking about an OS-enabled phone call. Like literally, it will appear as a phone call on my phone.
That's right.
And when I pick it up, it's basically going to be like an avatar 3D call experience that then prompts us also to jump into a spooky jungle or a spooky forest if we want to do something scary together. And it can be embedded in experiences, and can be embedded in all kind of really essentially any 3D experiences that the creator would want to create, either bespoke for that or in an existing game, right?
That's right. And by the way, these are all APIs we're enabling. So it may be an OS level call, depending on your experience, but maybe you didn't want to use that for your experience and you wanted to pull just the voice communication or the pulling up the phone book, or like, this is what creators get to do. It's not a one size fits all. We enable the APIs we used. We're open sourcing the code that we're building. And I've learned a while ago not to try to predict too hard what our creators are going to do, because they're going to do stuff that surprises me. I don't know how they're going to put all these together. We put it together in a coherent package. That's right. That's right. This community is just fantastic.
You know, I don't think, I think it's an incredibly bold move. To your point, it makes perfect sense, because today people really go and do voice call on Discord while they play inside Roblox, right? Or they use other phone, or they do a FaceTime or whatever. So it really brings even more tighter integration into the product, which makes a lot of sense. Nonetheless, I think it's bold to enter into that sort of communication mechanism of how people actually talk to one another. It's something that obviously will probably take place in many other platforms, but obviously for Roblox's community and being able to not only have a phone call in 3D, but play together or hang out together while you're on that phone call. I mean, I can tell you, Dan, like we're already in my team, we have a couple of projects when we're like, oh my God, we got to get this API and get going. So we're excited to put our hands on the API, which I believe is still this year will be launched, right?
It should be launched around the November timeframe is what we're expecting. So you'll have it soon.
Amazing. So, and then switching gear, kind of evolving from that, I've seen the numbers, 1 million downloads of Roblox on MetaQuest, announcing Roblox availability on PlayStation, which is an absolutely huge step given the role that PlayStation plays in, console and gaming and so on and so forth. And so what does that mean for Roblox, you believe, in terms of, again, expanding and retaining these older demos?
So our belief is Roblox, again, should be available on any device to anyone, anywhere in the world, right? And this is just a continued step in that. And we've seen, even with something that seems as different in MetaQuest, a huge percent of our experience is just translate over directly. There are some where frame rate is so important in VR. There's some things where there would need to be some fine tuning beyond that, just increased focus on performance, but so much just translates directly. And if you were at RDC, you were there, you saw that demo, right, of Dave and some of our team doing PlayStation and phone and MetaQuest all at the same time, right? Which is entirely like the Roblox vision. We all now need to go put our MetaQuests on and go do MetaQuest, but it's this great mix and match. Obviously, MetaQuest is a great platform for 3D environments. Like, that's what it was built for, right? But then PlayStation, just another incredibly popular platform that we're enabling people to be on. The thing, you asked me what this means for Roblox. Obviously, it's like access to folks in ways that they want to use the platform, but kind of under the covers, going back to the engineering of this, and I spoke about this a little bit at RDC, we've built this thing called the Universal App, where we basically have built Roblox on Roblox. That also means it's now so much easier for us to port Roblox to a new piece of hardware. And I think that's going to be really important, because I don't think we're going to see new devices slow down. I think we're going to see an explosion with things like VR and AR. There's so many vendors starting to figure out what this space means. Technology continues to improve, so there'll be more and more interesting devices. So I'm really excited that we feel even better positioned than we have in the past to be on every device that our users really want to use. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and I also, some of the numbers that I've seen around kind of the monetization on console with Roblox users and the retention and engagement level really kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't kind of ready for that massive percentage, like multiple times over the level of engagement and monetization on console than on mobile. And I think that is really important, especially for, a company like Super Social as a studio, to figure out how do we build also diverse experiences that take advantage of the different modality of the way people engage on Roblox, right? Maybe some are mobile that are more optimized and some on console. And I know everyone can access the experiences, but I think having Roblox on all devices that are important obviously makes it even more interesting to find what is the right business model for a certain experience that today we may not think about it in that manner. The other piece I wanna jump into, we talked about create, we talked about connect and communicate. The third pillar is obviously play or engage, right? I know Roblox is obviously not just about games, but to me, play is not about playing video games. It's just playing, socializing, having fun with friends. Sometimes I'm shocked when I go to some Roblox games and you wouldn't call some of these games as traditional games with a core gameplay loop. And sometimes I go to many of these games and I don't even know how to play. But then I call my 12-year-old niece and she's like, well, this is what you do. You just go here, you do that, you press here, and boom, you just figured out the game. And I'm like, oh my God, I spent the weekend and I have no idea what I'm doing. So Roblox has millions of experiences available to its global user base, which, as we said, it's almost 66 million, daily active users now. And while we're seeing amazing next generation experiences being built through programs like the Game Fund, which, we are proudly a part of as we build WordLab, kind of our zero code, no code creation sandbox and bringing it to life, some of the most engaging and very successful games on the Roblox platform or experiences continue to be let's call it the Roblox experiences of today, of yesterday, that are kind of more core and endemic to the audience and to the platform. While a lot of these quote unquote AAA experiences that I think the Game Fund has been encouraging creation, which by the way are absolutely incredible and really showcase the capabilities of the engine. But we're seeing those games and experiences are kind of treading much more slowly in terms of adoption. As you guys think about aged up content, as you guys think about what are those next generation experiences look like, how do we make sure that the platform is able to not only enable the creation of those experiences, but also make sure that audiences can find these experiences, to make sure that they can identify the developers that are building these experiences, that these experiences can actually monetize and finance themselves while the platform is kind of gradually evolving into its next generation iteration?
Yeah, so as you call out, we're very fortunate actually that like this journey to try to age up the platform's been going well. You point out like over half our users are 13 plus. Our by far fastest growing demographic is 17 plus. So the users are there. And then how do we get the right content in front of them? We have a big investment in discovery of experiences, also search for experiences. The two are kind of hand in hand. And the real goal there is more and more to be able to find the niche you're in. And so like the recommendations I get should be maybe very different from the experiences you get, and definitely different, most likely different from what your niece gets, right? And how do we target that better and better? We made some really big strides in that. It's why I think you see with some of our Game Fund experiences, they may not, be the number one player with the traditional demographic on Roblox, but they're getting their niche and they're getting a lot of traffic. And it's because they're compelling and they're driving engagement on that, right? And then you add in things like some of those experiences might be best consumed through something like PlayStation versus, let's say, on mobile or something like that. And all that capability comes through. So one thing about Roblox, we're never in a rush. Like we view all of this because it's from a platform point of view, it's a stay consistent to the vision and we will get there. And we're very happy with the way this is all progressing. It doesn't all happen, like with one release and overnight, but we're seeing the user engagement. We're seeing the, let's say, the more sophisticated content show up. We're seeing it push the new capabilities we've had in our engine from a graphics point of view. We talked about aerodynamics that's launched in the engine to allow you to do all sorts of kind of cool things with wind and flying and shapes and so on. All this is just one piece building on another, and it's kind of like getting that snowball rolling down a hill. And I feel we're tracking very well to that.
So Dave called at RDC something that you guys are consistently talking about, which is the big vision, the big mission for Roblox is 1 billion daily users, right? And my question to you, and if you want to take a moment to kind of try and like, okay, how do I answer this goddamn question from Yon? But like, what are the 2 or 3 things that need to be true for Roblox to get to 1 billion daily users?
Wow. Yeah. I think there's a few things that absolutely have to be true. One, there has to be a utility to Roblox beyond just, let's say, gameplay. So that's where something like Roblox Connect comes in. The fact that we may not go to Roblox just because you're going to sit down for 30 minutes and play something, but we may have a 10-second chat, right? But that 10-second chat, like I said, is rich, immersive, 3D, even though it's only for 10 seconds, right? Maybe it's calling home to say, don't forget to pick up milk at the grocery store, but you can go and do that. I think another thing that's going to be critical is everyone can be a creator. And I think the ability to customize from whether it's as small as your avatar to as big as the hangout that you view as your virtual home to a new experience is going to be really, really important. And then, I think the other big one, and this is just happening, but I said that concept of anyone on any device, anywhere in the world. We have a very global audience. It continues to grow. But obviously, when we're talking 1 billion users, we need to be able to reach pretty much everybody on the planet, right? So just continued work on that. And it's something we're very focused on, and we've had really good results on that in our global reach. But I think we just continue to push on that, what devices they can do it in. Devices will be different in different places. We have to make sure that all works well and so on. So I think if we do those 3 things and we keep pushing at it, the incredible content will show up, and we'll see content of new forms. I mentioned, tax preparation on Roblox, probably not so outlandish when you start looking down this path. School education experiences, music, of course, any place you could think of the way you might collaborate in the real world, but you're limited by, usually by distance is the biggest one in my mind, or by almost what I'll call mood. Like, I need to be someone different than what I really am, or want to be someone different in this environment. I think Roblox can apply. And I think that just, shopping experiences, brand experiences, I expect to see by the time we're at 1 billion users, you're both shopping for virtual and real items on the platform, right? So I think all those things will be possible, but we're talking 1 billion users. We're talking a little bit of a ways away. So as I said before, I'm always careful on predicting because our community will surprise us in the best ways. And all of you guys might just take us in some totally crazy direction we never expected, but super exciting.
Yeah, and these are great. And I love the kind of the first one you actually said. They all makes perfect sense. But I think the one you said where Roblox has to be about more than just gameplay. And I think that echo really true to me because when we started Super Social, focusing fully on the Roblox platform over 3 years ago, it was part of an hypothesis that the internet is evolving into 3D. And if that is true, it's going to be so much more than games that people are going to want to do in the internet, just like they do today. They chat, they shop, they socialize, they entertain.
And we're already seeing that, Yon. Like, yes, there are games, but the growth of music on Roblox is just really incredible. Like, what better way to experience your favorite artist than kind of when you can jump on stage with them, right? In a way that doesn't get you evicted from the event immediately, right? Or what we're doing with brands, like brands seem so excited to allow users to come and directly interact with their product in a deep, intense way. Not just, here's a photo, do you like it? But you're touching it, you're playing with it, you're using it, you're trying it out. You're trying out maybe as part of an outfit, right? All in the experience. We already have this stuff on Roblox and it's growing incredibly in its popularity and engagement. So I think we're already seeing that trend. We just got to, really just nurture it and give it more time, and we're going to see more and more of that. So
yeah,
I'm really excited about the utility.
And you mentioned the utility beyond gameplay. You mentioned everyone can be a creator. You mentioned anywhere, any device. The one thing I would add that I think is really going to be important, and I'm sure you would agree, is continuing to expand and enhance the way in which individual creators and large studios can monetize and build thriving businesses, because I think that economic engine ultimately needs to work in both ways, right? Both for the platform you guys are building and also to make sure that, a 21-year-old developer in, Wyoming and a large 150 people studio and maybe more can all build thriving businesses that make sense. We're on that journey as Super Social, is figuring out how do we build a sustainable, thriving business on the Roblox platform. And we are taking the long view as well, because we believe although Roblox is a 16, 17-year-old company from start to today, we believe it's still very much the early days of the category.
That's right. And along those lines, that's why we launched or announced, creator subscriptions, yet another mechanism. And you think about, maybe that's aimed a little bit more towards the larger studios because it takes a little bit more thought. Like, if someone's going to be our subscriber, what are they going to get for it? Like, we give you the tool to do it, but you got to figure out what the compelling reason to be a subscriber would be for an experience. A large organization has the people who can sit around and think about that and try and do it. But I think it's so important that we continue to support both sides of that spectrum. And I saw that at RDC last weekend, right? When people started using we, I realized I quickly had to clarify, wait, is we them and a buddy, or is it, an organization of dozens to 100 plus people, working, because it wasn't always clear. And I had to understand which one I was talking to. There are different needs, different requirements. But I think what's so magical here, though, is the platform seems to be supporting all these in a fairly healthy way.
Yeah, and that's a huge challenge, which I'm sure, you guys will continue to figure out how you navigate the needs of a 250 people studio and a studio of one, right? And with AI capabilities, by the way, I think Roblox will enable a lot of, probably dozens, if not hundreds or thousands studios of one person, right? Because you would potentially be able to do so much more with, AI capabilities that today you probably can't. But also at the top of the funnel, how do you empower with AI capabilities the more advanced studios who are kind of building bigger businesses and are pushing the platform forward?
It is so important, by the way. Like, I think generative AI is going to be the magical automation that creators have been waiting for. Like, in a sense, we've done a lot of automation in the history of technology, from, the steam engine reducing physical toil to computers enhancing communication and repetitive tasks. Like, I think generative AI becomes kind of the, if farmers got tractors instead of, braces of oxen, generative AI is going to be that same thing for creators. So again, they can focus more on their creation, and it can just completely accelerate the way they approach that. Helps them ideate, helps them refine an idea and really get to the core of what they're doing. In the case of coding, we saw with our launch of Coding Assistant that folks using it were producing about double the amount of code as people who just had our traditional, autocomplete sort of capability enabled. So allows you to go so much faster on these things. And as a platform who lives and breathes creators, it's so important that we jump right in on generative AI, and it's an area where we have a huge investment just to figure out what's next.
One more question that I'm curious about before we wrap up is, obviously, Roblox hasn't been blind to, I believe, what has happened over the past 2 years with the call for a decentralized internet, right? A user-owned internet, as sophisticated investors may refer to it, and a decentralized internet, as maximalists call it. But essentially, really talking about a world where people truly, quote unquote, own their digital assets. Now, on Roblox today, you already own assets, and now with the introduction of limiteds, which we've already been using as a studio, you can not only purchase something or create something, you can also resell it, and the creators get a portion of the revenue on an ongoing basis. But it's still all happening within the Roblox ecosystem, within the Roblox economy. Do you have a point of view on how, if at all, in the long term, blockchain plays a role in enable Roblox to interoperate or interact with other platforms in the ecosystem? And if that is at all something that you guys are even thinking about for the future?
Right. So I think our focus is, again, it's on our user community and our creator community, and what are the challenges they're facing. So when we look at, for example, what does it take to build a vibrant economy, what we're seeing is the most important elements is you have to have trust in that economy. It's got to move very smoothly. There's got to be the right economic incentives. And to some degree, there also needs to be a way to rectify issues such as fraud or, mistakes. The parent who gives too much control on an iPad to a child and they make purchases, we have to refund and so on, right? So I think that's what's central to this. I'm looking for ways blockchain can either bring us into that and make that better, or enhance, let's say, some of the interconnections we have. Let's say connecting Roblox to, when you do a virtual purchase, to a real world purchase. And I think it's, I'm always hesitant as a technologist to start with a technology name first. I go, what is the user problem we're trying to solve? And I think that's the way we're going to approach it at Roblox, is a focus on user problems. We understand blockchain technology pretty well. If that can help us, we will gladly use it. But the focus has to be on the value our users and our creators are taking away from this. And I think that's how we're going to focus on it.
So we talked about how we get to 1 billion daily active users. My last question for today's show, which is so fascinating, what are you most excited about for the next 12 months?
For the next 12 months, as you know, we have a big explosion with avatars. I'm looking forward to getting photo to avatar out there, or in general, user-based avatar creation, so everyone can have exactly the avatar they want for any given moment. I'm really excited about where we're going with Roblox Connect. And once we get that out there in November, seeing how people start to connect with each other and just get that much more socially integrated on the platform. And then I talked about it just a few seconds ago, but generative AI and how we can accelerate creators with it. I think those are my big 3 things to watch over the next 12 months.
Dan, thank you so much. I'm glad you finally made it here, and I really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you did too.
My pleasure, Yon. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Into the Metaverse. We hope you learned a lot and explored new aspects of the Metaverse.